there was an article, and it said, if you don't buy the Royal Enfield Himalayan 450, you're an idiot. And it sounds harsh and it sounds hyperbolic, but I completely agree. Hey, Dylan from Throttle Company in Columbus, Ohio, where we sell Royal Enfields, Moto Guzzi's, and vintage motorcycles. Today, we're doing an episode of In the Loop where we talk about a brand new model from Royal Enfield, and that is the Himalayan 450. Gorgeous motorcycle. Hanley Black is the color name. Gold wheels. All this stuff is stock with the exception, this is our demo, so with the exception of this rally guard here, it's called the rally engine guard, and the taller windscreen and the GPS mount. Everything else completely stock on this motorcycle. The 450 adventure segment, or this kind of lightweight adventure bike, is just the most popular thing right now, and Royal Enfield took a huge leap forward with this bike. And it's the kind of bike that is just unintimidating. That's what Royal Enfield does well. Unintimidating, inexpensive, but very, very capable with this new model. This is the kind of thing you can just buy, put minor gear on there, outfit the way you want it, and just explore, go on adventures right away. So, upside down forks on this bike, 21 front, 17 rear. The big one is this new engine they're calling the Sherpa 450. 452 cc's, water-cooled. First water-cooled engine from Royal Enfield. Ton of horsepower, almost double the horsepower of the last generation. 6 gears, wet clutch. That makes a huge difference. Or, slipper clutch. Wet clutch is normal. The slipper clutch. And it makes a huge difference in rideability. I am worried about my battery on my GoPro, so we're just going to get out and ride. That's the idea behind the In the Loop. You can look up specs all day. You can look at cool bike porn videos and photos of this if you want. But we are going to show you what it's like to ride. A big improvement that we have, technology-wise, is the Tripper Dash. It's a single, dual overhead cam, 450. So got that cool thumper sound. Tons of low-speed maneuverability. You see 1,800 miles on this. A lot of those are by me. I've been riding the crap out of this bike. I love this motorcycle. I've taken it on gravel roads. I've taken it on dirt roads. I've taken it on all-day adventures. The seat is phenomenal. It has 2 adjustments. So you can actually do a low setting and a high setting. Sorry for bumping you there. I've got the high setting for myself, and it just gives you a little extra leg room. It does make it a little taller, but I'm 6'1". I can flat foot this motorcycle. Can I flat foot? Let's see in a second. Oh yeah, I can flat foot. So just barely though. I'm kind of forcing my heels down. But that's what's great about this bike, is it is very approachable. It's a good first adventure bike or a kind of beginner. You're thinking about getting into gravel roads, touring around. Have you ever seen the TAT? One of our mechanics, Brandon, took an old generation of the Himalayan 411 on the TAT, the Trans-America Trail. So he started in Virginia, made it all the way to Oregon and coast to coast. And you do a lot of off-road on that trail. This would have been an incredible bike for this. I have had one up to an alleged 94 miles an hour. I've heard over 100. If I told you a Himalayan, before the 450 came out, if I told you a Himalayan could do 100 miles an hour, you'd laugh in my face. The old Himalayan probably topped out about 80. People did put a lot of money in Himalayans to get them to do any more than that. And it's just not, it wasn't a highway bike. It's not, the 411's not made for that. It was not meant to be this kind of top speed, sitting at the high RPMs for a long time kind of bike. But this one can do it no problem. I've taken the highway. I mean, it means a lot. We have some areas southeast of here in Columbus, kind of the Hocking Hills area, where there's a lot of gravel roads. It's a huge deal. Nicole, who's my business partner here, she has a 411, and we've been riding. We have 3 demos for this. Our intention, by the way, is to have some kind of local-ish influencer type people borrow these, make videos, tell me what you think. I don't care if it's good or bad. I know it will be good because the bikes are so great, but that's what I want to do with the other 2 that we have, and then keep one at the shop for a test ride. Anyway, Nicole and I have been riding these like crazy, and the smile on your face after a day's riding when you can take this an hour on the highway to where you're going to ride, to where the good riding is for us in Columbus, about an hour away. Ride around there, twisty roads, gravel roads, just beautiful scenery, and then turn around and ride back on the highway, and it's comfortable and it's no problem, and you're going 90 miles an hour, keeping up with traffic. A bike that can do all that, I mean, I don't think you realize, maybe some of you do, but that's rare. That's a unicorn. That's a magical motorcycle. This could be, I'm not the kind of guy that thinks you need one bike to rule them all, but if you were going to have one, this could do it. And that's the interesting thing about this compared to the last Himalayan, is what I really love about the last Himalayan, the 411, is it was a great first bike for a lot of people. Now, I didn't say beginner bike, but first bike, because when you first get into motorcycle riding, you don't really know. Maybe some people do, but you don't really know the kind of riding you're going to do. I think most people. I've been selling motorcycles for a long time, for 4 years now, and we've sold 500-600 bikes to a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of new riders. I've seen a lot of people get a bike and be happy or unhappy with it. And basically, I don't think most people know when they're starting out. They think cafe racers look cool. They think that bike looks cool. They're not sure what they're going to get into. The great thing about the Himalayan 411 is it did everything okay. And you could get that bike and then you realize, I'm riding on the highway a lot. I need a bike that can do the highway. Okay, the Himalayan 411 got you there. It got you to the point where you figure out what bike you want, what you want out of motorcycling. If you were doing a ton of off-road with your Himalayan 411, okay, now we need a bike that's more capable off-road, something more off-road oriented, maybe even a full-on dirt bike. If you're just cruising all day or whatever, we get that kind of bike, you know what I mean? So the trick with the 450 is it doesn't have those limitations, not nearly as much as the 411 did. I'm in 5th gear right now, 6th gear, baby. Oh, and also notice I left my turn signal on. Way to go. All right, so 6th gear, that's blowing people's minds right now that have spent a lot of time on a 411. 6th gear is just huge. It makes the power kind of differently because the engine, the new Sherpa 452 engine, it makes power differently than the last bike. So you don't have kind of as much of that like right off idle low end grunt. You have the grunt, but the power kind of kicks in at 4,000. I mean, you're riding this thing all day. You saw I went to 7,000, no problem. I think 8,000 is the red line. It pops up. I've hit it a couple of times, but it pops up. It shows you red on the dash. So this thing has just been fantastic. I'm not a very experienced gravel rider or dirt road rider, but I have done a fair amount of miles on this bike in those situations, and it has been fantastic. I can't believe how good it is. And it handles great. As we take these 90-degree turns, 21-inch front wheel, upside-down forks, 17-inch rear. I don't know what the magic is about that combination. You wouldn't think that the 21 would handle so well, but here I am just leaning over into these turns comfortably, consistently, reliably. It's crazy. It's crazy how comfortable you feel on this bike. The riding position, very upright, very in control, in command, confidence inspiring. And I just love this bike. I think the brakes are exactly what they should be. They're not grabby. They're not overpowered. They're exactly as much braking as you need. The rear's the same way. The front and the rear are just perfectly proportioned. I'm a big rear brake guy on the street, and I love it. We'll do a top RPMs, top speed here. So we saw 80 there, 6th gear, 5th gear. I'm coming back down. I don't want to try to yell over the wind, but you saw the dash. It gets red at 8,000. So the red line's actually 85. It was a little higher than I thought. 8,500 RPM on a Himalayan. 411 owners are losing their mind. Now, there is something that's interesting about this. When this bike first came out, I saw this. I've got videos up on my channel of us in India last year at this event that's happening right now in India, Motoverse. They had launched this bike and we sat on it for the first time. We saw it in person for the first time. And before that, I'd just seen videos. And a lot of this talk on Facebook and Instagram and online from the people was, especially owners, people that owned it already, oh, I don't like the look. They ruined the look. And if you think that, I know this is going to be controversial, and I am biased, I love this motorcycle, you're just wrong. If you don't like the look of this bike, you are wrong. And I think most of the time, it's because you haven't seen it in person. There's something about photos. In a photo, I've seen people focus on something. Oh, why is the shock white? What? In person, no one would ever notice something like that. In person, you take in the whole picture of something. There's something about how photos, how the information works in your brain when you're just seeing a photo of something, especially it's on your phone, it's small, bright colors stand out, whatever. Oh, why does that exhaust look like that? I promise you, in person, you will understand the proportions. I literally don't think there's a single inch of this motorcycle that they didn't nail aesthetically. You look around, the more you look at it in person, and maybe video does a little bit of that in justice, but in person, they nailed every single inch of this. And having worked on this bike and worked on these bikes, done the service, put the rear racks on a few, put the engine guards on a few, they've really thought it out. They've really planned out every little thing that you need to do consistently, all the maintenance stuff. It just makes it a dream. If you're a mechanic like I am, sometimes people will look at a motorcycle and oh, I love that motorcycle. I say, I hate that motorcycle. Oh, why? I love it. Like the looks and the power and on paper. Yeah, on paper, sure. But have you ever tried to change the oil on that motorcycle or whatever it is, And they made it a nightmare. The people that built those bikes, sometimes you ever have to take an oil tank out on a Harley, it's a nightmare, some of those older ones. And it makes you sit there and curse the engineers, the designers that came up with this stuff. But having worked on this bike, it is a dream. It would be a great bike to own and work on yourself. It would be a great bike to try to take long distance and not be too concerned about having to do roadside repairs. Everything's straightforward, everything's easy to access. So the front forks are upside down. Whenever that happens, the axle is usually kind of recessed into the one side and then threads into the other side. And it's a big Allen, basically, a hex key. And they've included that under the seat. So there is that special tool that you need under the seat. The toolkit is extremely robust, especially for a modern bike. Just everything that they've thought of on this bike, it's clearly well thought out. I've seen Mark Wells, you should follow him on Instagram. He's the chief of design for Royal Enfield. He had a photo in 2017 of this motorcycle next to the 411 when it had just come out. So that's how long they've been designing this motorcycle, and it really shows. Everything is so well thought out. I think this is the best motorcycle that Royal Enfield makes. And as a Royal Enfield dealer, my life, my living is sort of tied in with how well Royal Enfield is doing or how successful they are. And this bike makes me really happy. I'm going to try to sneak in ahead of this guy. Because it's fully modern. People are taking it seriously. I've had people who have these kind of higher performance bikes say, hey, tell me about this Himalayan 450. And suddenly everybody's noticing that Royal Enfield is capable of making a motorcycle that is fully modern and just works incredible. I cannot believe how good this is. I didn't mention little things. I mean, this bike works so well overall that you don't even look at things like this, but USB-C right here, this is all stock. So you can plug in your GPS, your phone, your whatever. I have been using GPS. You can get these, I use Gaia GPS, and you can get these like routes and zoom in and make your own routes and stuff. So the Tripper Dash is fantastic. It can handle a GPX file, and you can navigate, and this thing moves down, and you can see half the dash and all that stuff. But if you can't make a route from it. It can navigate, but you can't make your kind of custom routes. You have this little joystick here, and it moves around. You can see all the information, fuel consumption, battery, all that stuff, service due, engine temperature. Now we have a water temperature. So it's just it's hard to explain how good this bike is. And we do test rides, and you really should come and test ride this bike. If you're an old Himalayan owner, if you've owned a previous 411, or you're at all interested in getting into adventure bike riding, there was an article, and it said, if you don't consider or if you don't buy the Royal Enfield Himalayan 450, you're an idiot. And it sounds harsh and it sounds hyperbolic, but I completely agree. This motorcycle, this one's the top of the line, so it's $59.99, but they start at $57.99, so you get kind of the matte finishes. Casa Brown, which actually is really growing on me. When this first came out, I thought, well, this Hanley Black's the one for me. And Casa Brown is pretty interesting. It looks very utilitarian, and it's got kind of a robust, durable finish. All right, I think my battery's dying. I'll see you next time.